Aha. So as Metin gets ready here, as you can see, he's the director for the Max Planck Institute for Intelligent Systems in Germany. Welcome very much, Metin. The floor is all yours.
Oh, thanks very much, Josh, and thanks to Mia and everyone for organizing this great workshop. So today I will indeed make more a philosophical talk than a technical talk, which I typically do. So as you can see, my group is called Physical Intelligence. And now I'd like to today talk about this as a kind of maybe a new paradigm, which has also close connection with embodied intelligence that I'll define later. So let me start with first, what we talk about. I mean, we have seen great talks about animal intelligence and also robotic intelligence. And if you look at different length scales of these animals, organisms, and in single organisms and also in collectives, we know that they create intelligence, and we need to define what it is. And the same also happens for human-made synthetic or robotic systems and machines, where we can see more and more we are trying to make these also machines intelligent. So first question is, how do we define intelligence? Which is, as we know, it's not, there is no precise definition because it's still a notion, not a theory. So that's why let me first give a functional definition of intelligence in my institute, also because our institute is called Intelligent Systems Institute. So we say ability of perceiving and using some control to act, and then eventually learn from these actions, adapting, evolving, making decisions, inferences, and then continuing this all the time as a loop. We have seen also today great talks about perception action loops, but also we add that to learning. So this loop is really the main unique, let's say, principle behind both biological and human-made physical agents, how to become intelligent. Of course, still there are a lot of unknowns and things to define inside these all parts and connections that we are all working on. So, but let's come to the topic of physical intelligence. As we know, with this definition, the intelligence, of course, is first enabled by our brain, where we have computational intelligence by evolution, using our neural network systems in biological case. But also, I'd like to emphasize, and we also in this workshop want to emphasize, that body is also very important. But here, more specifically, we can really encode more physical intelligence to our body to operate in uncertain, unstructured, and complex environments, which is the grand challenge of human-made systems. So in that sense, we define physical intelligence in my group as how to encode intelligence like sensing, actuation, control, memory, logic, computation, adaptation, learning, and decision-making in the body of the agent. So these are all needs to happen in body, and we use no electronics. It's all physical, principle-based intelligent methods. We could call it body intelligence. The reason we don't do that is because there are some agents, like in animals, as you know, octopi. You can also have distributed neural or computational intelligence. That's why, because of those cases, we call it more physical intelligence of the body. So then let's compare how physical intelligence in the body versus our brain or computational intelligence in autonomous agents. So one important property is it's scale dependent. So for example, if you start from very smallest cell scale, single cell scale, or some plants and some even multicellular systems, where there is no neuron by evolution, in those systems, there is no neural computation. And then basically we can call everything is happening in the sense of intelligent adaptive behavior is because of their physical intelligence in their body. That's true for biological ones with no neurons, but for robots, that means there is no onboard computation that we can't do that on board. The second miniscale, more insect size or C. elegans or these kind of miniscale systems, what we see is there is some neural computation for sure, and also could be onboard computation in robotic cases, but it's very limited because of size. Then we say physical intelligence can be comparable to their computational intelligence. So that means they are really relatively balanced, or should be balanced, to achieve complex intelligence. And the third, in larger systems like centimeter or macro scale, like human size and also other vertebrate size, we can have much highly advanced neural networks and onboard computation where computational intelligence could be dominant. But on the other hand, in these cases, even as we know, even human body, as we have seen this morning, we also have many physical intelligence we could encode in our body, which will minimize the load and also complexity of computational intelligence. That's why even at the large scales, such physical intelligence could be very beneficial, and is really happening. So then continuing, and there are systems which have only physical intelligence, as I mentioned, if you have no neurons or if you are too small, like macron scale robots. But also there are very special cases, like if you're in a harsh environment, like space, nuclear power plants, or if there is a war disaster, like nuclear reactor disaster, then there would be maybe no electronics operation. Then also we are stuck with only physical intelligence at all the physical agents. And indeed, in that sense, NASA and many agencies have programs on these topics because of these also special reasons. So finally, physical intelligence by encoding to the body is more specialized. We need to make them to specific stimuli and other aspects. I'll show you some examples. In that sense, it's relatively simple. That's why evolution eventually figured out neural networks and computational intelligence is more general purpose and more complex. That's why we have evolved to create more and more complex computational intelligence in our systems. So just to show you examples of cell scale, again, no neural, just physical intelligence-based system. An amoeba, for example, as a single cell, can perceive a plant cell, act, also control itself as a distributed control system, and eventually achieve the task of grabbing this thing with a very adaptive, by evolution and learning in some sense how to grab this plant cell is a relatively intelligent way. So, but interestingly, another special case in large scale is arts, where you are not limited with any notion. Theo Janssen's famous kinetic sculptures, which are amazing, that always amaze me and also infuse me a lot. These walking machines in the very complex sand environment using wind energy and all mechanically, even sensing water, there are sensors and computation, and also there is mechanical control integrated to these machines at the large scale are great examples of how physical intelligence can also be used in larger scales a lot. So if we summarize like physical intelligence in the body, there are many enabling methods that I'll mention a little bit later in the next slide. And then all these enabling methods will create some of the perceptual, memory, logic, adaptation, and decision-making kind of components of physical intelligence. Of course, all these things, of course, are highly coupled to environment where all of these enablers need to use stimulus from environment. They could be natural stimuli, or sometimes man-made or human-made controlled stimuli from the environment. Also interactions with the environment, constraints, and many other flows and interactions, those will also can create intelligence together with these enablers. Of course, in this workshop, embodied intelligence here and brain is also there. Let me then really connect the relation of physical intelligence to embodied intelligence. As I mentioned, physical intelligence focuses on intelligence encoded in the body, while, as we have seen, embodied intelligence focuses on the tight coupling between the body and brain and also environment. So in that sense, to me, of course, I'm trying to be also a little bit provocative because sometimes we think about intelligence covers everything, but to me, the body can now, with the recent developments, can spin out as physical intelligence, although it's highly coupled to brain, and that's especially when we have computational intelligence dominated large systems or in milliscale systems where physical intelligence is comparable to computational intelligence. Of course, here, embodied intelligence is really crucial, complementing field with physical intelligence, how to get this interaction between the physical intelligence and the brain coupled together tightly. So in that sense, there's a lot of connection there, but we can still separate artificially for now, because really it's a new paradigm that we want to improve as a field itself. So I just want to finish up with some methods to create physical intelligence. The first approach I try to define is how to encode automatic self-X capabilities in the body using smart materials, structures, and mechanisms, and physical couplings. So what I mean is self-adaptation, self-response, self-regulation, and many self-assembly, self-replication, self-oscillation. These are all automatically created behavior by stimuli from the environment. So we can, for example, build these old famous machines from James Watt's time, mechanical governors, which uses fully mechanical system to control, like a proportional controller, to control the speed of the basically rotating machines using valve control mechanically, all coupled to this mechanism. We can have self-healing materials. In this case, an example from my group, we can use room temperature or special temperature to cure or basically repair any mechanical damage so that the robot can still operate with no problem. Also, you can use a robot interaction with the environment. In this case, robot has a material, which is a protein, interacting with the water environment with a fuel on the robot that creates a surface tension gradient Marangoni forces to create self-propulsion. We call them self-propulsion because it happens because of autonomous interaction with the environment. So all these things are now becoming possible. We have many great examples from literature and from our group, more and more coming up. The second, another example just unpublished one I want to show you is if you make a soft magnetic body in a constrained environment, this sheet robot at the beginning, it was just a rectangular flat sheet. By the flow of interaction with the environment and the boundary, it turns into a helix automatically, self-adapting itself, because we are not programming it to turn into a helix ourselves. Because of fluidic interaction, and we just spin it, it turns into a helix, and then it can propel against the blood flow, which is very high speed here. So in that sense, we can now make self-adapting soft machines that uses the body morphology adaptation because of smart material here. Another second main method we can do to create physical intelligence is how to encode multi-X capabilities. These could be multifunctionality, multi-stability, multi-locomotion, multi-terrain, multi-modality of sensing, actuation, and many other things. So here, for example, you see a multifunctional structure, which is inspired by nature. In our group, we look at biological hairs, and they can be used for adhesion friction, liquid wetting, drag reduction, heat preservation. Also, they could be used as sensors and actuators, all using the same structure, just by optimizing it in a different way and using right stimuli responsive or passive material. So also, as you see in the stimuli responsive magnetic material case, we can also create multimodality of locomotion and also multi-terrain behavior, all enabled by the body material and the design. So the last example, there are many other physical capabilities we can encode to the body using smart materials or other structuring. For example, this is a new medical device we just will publish next month. This is a material that uses a very simple magnetic input to turn into a collapsed device that can be used for some anchoring or other functional properties. Electrical structuring is really important in nature and also in robotic systems. Physical programming of shape, stiffness, and many other properties is very essential as a method. Reconfiguration, modularity, taxis behavior, memory, logic operation, all these things we try to achieve these days. And there are many great biological examples, and also many, again, literature has fluidic logic systems and many other things coming up using mechanical instabilities and also collective systems as great examples. And they use all taxis behavior for automatic physical intelligence. So as just one last example is this is a new robot that's just published. We use a smart material here where first it's a magnetically walking robot because of its just normal magnetic actuation. So when the same robot gets into a warm environment, in this case, water is hot, then the shape, because of liquid crystal elastomer of the material of the body, turn the robot shape now self-adapting to a helix. In this case, it's because of temperature difference. Then we can still actively move it. So as you see here, the robot can adapt to environmental stimuli automatically and now turn into a helical robot rather than a loop-shaped robot. So that's it from my side, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much, Metin. That's a great introduction to what's becoming possible. Thank you so much.